With ADHD, we have a lot of those ideas coming up on surface, and they're so strong. For this reason or that reason, we have those urges coming up like, oh my gosh, it would be so great to do this, and it would be so great to do this.
Some people have lots of dopamine, but it doesn't know where to go, doesn't get where it needs to go. It's like, even our dopamine has ADHD and wanders off all over the place.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to ADHD Eavesdrop, where you can be a butterfly on the wall and listen on any conversations. Who am I? I am Janine VanStee, an ADHD life coach who helps people better manage ADHD and live best life that they can. Okay, fine. I'm not Janine. Janine is laughing right now because my name is Phelps and I hijacked her podcast today. Hi, Janine. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm really interested to see how this goes with you being the host today.
Well, thank you so much for letting me do that. Thank you for being a good sport. My hair is not as curly as hers. She is beautiful naturally. I'm faking it. So I am not faking my accent. That's for real. So my name is Ina Phelps, and I am a big fan of ADHD and an ADHD adult. Janine is my coach, and Janine works with me. He helps me out a lot, and we are working on a couple projects together. So I proposed to Janine if we can please do a reverse interview. She's doing such a great job interviewing everybody and helping everybody that I think we should interview her. I would like Janine to be able to tell her story, her side of being not just ADHD coach, but ADHD adult. Maybe she will tell us how coaching helps her life and helps her manage her ADHD symptoms, or maybe that's a challenge she's actually overcoming. So anyways, I'm going to start doing some rapid fire of questions. And then thank you, Janine, so much for being a good sport about it. So
Absolutely.
Let's do it. So Janine, for all your friends out there, could you please tell us when were you diagnosed with ADHD?
So I wasn't actually diagnosed until I was 50. So I had been diagnosed with anxiety, depression, OCD, all those things before. And then finally, when I was 50, after my son had been diagnosed, I got diagnosed. My husband then got diagnosed, and my daughter got diagnosed, as well as my mother, who was 79.
Wow. So it's really a family affair.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
It's kind of cool. I'm the only one.
We have a family psychiatrist who handles all of our mental issues.
Do you guys get a family discount?
I wish.
Perfect. And so when you got diagnosed, how did your personal diagnosis actually became your passion, your business? How did that kind of came in fruition?
Well, I'd always been interested in ADHD because I was a special ed teacher and administrator for 30 years. And so I knew a lot about it already. And so finding out that I had it was shocking because I was like, how did I not recognize this when I've worked with people with this in my whole life? And so it just kind of blew my mind. But as soon as I got diagnosed, all the little pieces just started to fall into place. I'm like, oh, that's this. Oh, that's that, and medication changed my life, made my life much more easy to handle, as well as retirement, because I did the typical ADHD thing and burned myself out to the max.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the whole retirement and the way how you look, it's just two different things. It still baffles me. Because I have ADHD, I'm not really good with ages, but there is no way when I met you, I would think, oh, that's a retiree. There's no way. And then when I saw your daughter, obviously, and I was like, wow, she has grown up adults. How old is she? I'm confused because not only because of my ADHD, but because you look great. You have so much energy. You have the spark in your eyes. You have the life passion, the smile you give all the time. Oh my gosh. Me personally, that's why I was drawn away to you immediately. Like that butterfly on the wall. I was flocking to you because of your warmth. So yes, we really appreciate how young you are.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, perfect. The next question I have, and that was the question which was on my mind. I maybe just keep forgetting to ask. So you now being an ADHD coach, that is your passion, and this is your business right now. Does that help with your ADHD, or is that an extra struggle?
It depends on what part you're talking about.
Let's peel it off.
So when we look at the actual coaching, God, I love to coach. That time, that 45 minutes that I get to spend with you once a week is like the cream of the crop. It is exactly what I want to be doing. Marketing is not exactly what I want to be doing. And there are a lot of things with starting up a business that I didn't realize that I was going to have to do when I started this whole process, and I found it very daunting. It was very difficult for me to get myself organized and in a place where I felt comfortable running my own business. And part of that included me knowing when I couldn't handle something and hiring it out because I needed help. So in some ways, it's great. In other ways, it's very difficult. I myself, going through the coaching program, have received a lot of coaching as well. And actually receiving coaching has made a huge difference in my life.
Perfect. So I feel like for ADHD adults, it's very important to be passionate about their job. If their job is part of their passion, then that dopamine kind of like stream would be a little bit more consistent, though it's still going to be a struggle depending on the day, depending on the task, which is incorporated in that. But I'm thinking you being passionate about coaching and ADHD is actually what keeps propelling you. Because in real life, if you actually started a business you are not passionate about, you just kind of like it sounded good for a second, that would be a hard no. That would be like a hard stop at some point. Like at the first obstacle or the second or the third, it would be something absolutely horrible. That's my understanding.
If I had chosen to go into a business that didn't interest me, which there's a lot of things that, probably wouldn't interest me. Like if I tried to start an accounting business, even if I had the knowledge of accounting, it wouldn't be the same. The passion behind the business is what keeps you moving forward and wanting to learn things and learn how to do these things, because the payoff is making changes in people's lives that make them live better lives themselves. And so you kind of have to go through all the crap to get to that end result. So yeah, definitely, if the end result is not rewarding enough, heck no, I'm not going to start a business doing it. I couldn't do it. Couldn't.
And for all our ADHD friends who are watching right now, they have to understand what we're talking about. Because with ADHD, we have a lot of those ideas coming up on surface, and they're so strong. For this reason or that reason, we have those urges coming up like, oh my gosh, it would be so great to do this, and it would be so great to do this. And sometimes I call it in the rise, like I'm trying to visualize it, how this like emerges. So I see that the urge, it's rising and it's on the peak, and it could be on that peak at like I would say several days for me, when we literally all we could think about is that. And it really makes a great idea. And it doesn't matter whether it's in line with our passions or not. It's just a great idea. The dopamine is like gushing. Our brain is working overdrive. So those are the ideas. And then there's true passions. The true passions are there for years. They will rise up, they will fall at some point because we don't do the actions or something, and not enough dopamine. But those are the ones, I call it the back burner ideas, which is always there. I mean, I'll find my papers, my little sticky notes or my diaries for 10 years ago, and bam, that's the idea. It's right there. I never acted on it, but it was bothering me. So for our ADHD friends, I want to understand. So when you act on that rising urge, but your real passion is not in there, as Janine said, if you are not an accountant, because there might be ADHD people there, and I met them, who are absolutely fascinated with mathematics and numbers.
Yes.
Yeah. But me and Janine, we're not. No. So if if you just learn how to distinguish, this is my true passion and this is my good idea, that will help you navigate a little bit. So for me, that's my latest trick, Janine. I didn't share it with you. When this urge will come, I am just riding the wave. Because there's nothing you can do. You cannot fight with your brain. You cannot tell it no. You just have to ride it. You're on the horse. You're on the roller coaster. So you're going up. But I just give it time. And I do whatever needs to be done. If I feel the urge to write it down, I'll write it down. If I feel the urge to start researching it, I will do that. But I don't do any no damage, no investing money, nothing. Just let it ride it. And then guess what? 2 days later, I wake up and I'm like, what was that I was obsessed about 2 days ago? Cannot even remember.
Well, the funny thing is when you start talking about that, I think about when I was going through my process of, starting up the business and trying to figure out the marketing. I'm like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and this and that and the other thing. And it's like, there are so many different ways to go about marketing that I had great ideas, but I couldn't obviously follow through on all. And so, like you, I kind of rode the wave and I tried a little bit of everything, and eventually found the podcast, which really is what rung for me. I love the podcast, and I love sharing stories with other people about ADHD. So it was just a natural fit for me, which is surprising because I never expected myself to be a podcaster. But here I am in my, I don't know, almost 40th episode. So it was really just trying all of those different things, and I would get obsessed with each one of them for just a little while, and I would try. And then I'd be like, this is not for me. Like, I am not, I like to, make ads and stuff like that. I love to play with Canva, but I don't want to do it every week. I don't, it's not something that I'm continually wanting to do. So I let that go. Right. And, but if I hadn't had a chance to play with it, like you said, and ride that wave, it would have been much more difficult because I would have been like, well, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do this. And instead, I just rode the wave, figured out what worked for me, what didn't work for me.
Especially when we're investing money to it right away.
Absolutely. And I did do some, I made some poor investments, and impulsive decisions.
Right.
That if I were to do it over again, I probably wouldn't have done what I did. I call that
which is normal for us.
Which is very normal for us. Absolutely. And I call it the ADHD tax because we people with ADHD, we do spend more money on things that we probably didn't need to spend money on them because of our impulses. And so I had quite a big ADHD tax my first year in business.
I found out there are two things now which can slightly help me with that. To say that I would never do that again, that we cannot say that. First, I start identifying the professions. When I have the urge to do something, I literally start questioning myself, are you? And I name the profession, because in our brain, the brain is telling us, oh my gosh, this is very this is something creative, you can do that. But I start naming the professions. Am I an artist who has an experience in that? No. So even though it feels like, oh, it's easy for me, Can it be technically tricky for me? Yes, because if that's a job for the artist who spend years and years, perfecting it, I know my brain is telling me, oh, you are the artist, but is there a chance that I'm going to really bomb at that? And so if I invest money, would that be like a harder crash for me or not? So that helps a little bit. Literally start asking myself, hey, Ina, are you a baker? No. So the chances are that you're going to bake the beautiful cake for sale, which the company you want to start, not going to work, right?
Right.
Another one is when I analyze all the investments I did with ADHD, instead of really like being mad at myself for it, I'm doing the life lesson. I already did that. I recovered. So we took care of that. But that is a lesson which kind of helps me in the long run. So if I'm in that situation again, first I ask myself, is that my job? Do I have experience in that? And second, did I already do that?
Mm-hmm.
So that is the only, if somebody's telling me, please don't do it, it's a bad idea, our brain is like, excuse me, you're challenging me. But if it's me going back and saying, hey, you already did that. You already did that. It was not that, but similar. Do you see the similarities? So what might happen? What would be the safer exit from it? So there's always a safer, So hopefully people can get our wisdom. Me and Janine were really good in communicating all this wise tricks we can discover. Perfect. I have a question for you.
Yes.
For a person who doesn't know you, what would you like them to know about you? Like what is so important, or something, maybe some of your achievements of your life, which you cannot like walk around and brag about it, but you kind of want people to know. If they have to know little things about you, what would you rather them to know about you?
All right. So what would I want people to know about me? I guess probably one of the first things I'd want them to know is that I'm not talking out my ass.
It's a good one.
Because like any old person can hang their shingle up and say, I'm an ADHD life coach, right? You don't have to legally get a certificate to do coaching. So any Tom, Dick, or Harry can just say, I'm a coach, put up a sign, and here we go. So what I want people to know is that I have over 55 years, because I'm 55 years old, of experience personally with ADHD. But I also have 30 years of knowledge that I've gathered through special education about ADHD. I've given trainings on ADHD. I know this stuff, right? I'm constantly researching, finding new information. I try to stay up to date. So this I want people to know is like, I'm not talking from a place of, I think I know what I'm talking about. I actually have the experience and the knowledge to back it up. So that is one thing. The other thing I would want people to know is really my major drive in life is helping, servitude. I'm a servant leader. I'm a servant when it comes to how I do my life. I serve others, which makes it difficult for me sometimes to remember self-care. But it is a high value for me as service. So those are the two things probably I would want people to know.
Oh, that's really good. I absolutely love it. I could add the third thing in there. You have a big heart. You are the person who is compelled to help people. You are the person who is helping a lot of people. And I am the witness of that. I know that you have no, how would I put it in a good way? You don't have that calculating mind. Like, I don't want to say you're not profitable, because that is wrong. But I would like to say that you have such a good intention that you always like to reach out, whether it's going to be for your benefit or not, but you're always trying to help people, and you're seen for it. You are validated for it. I absolutely love you for it, because I always know that whenever I call you or text you, I get such an understanding friend on another line who would never judge. And that gave me so much value in my life that I was thinking about, how did my year go? How did my half a year go? And then it dawned to me that a lot of liberation and a lot of gratitude I learned is because of you.
Aw.
Because you created this such a safe environment for me. Even like today, I had such a slow morning. So any normal person, if I will text them and say, hey, let's push our appointment for 1 hour, that's a big ask. That's a big ask. And I felt super guilty, but I was just upfront and I was like, hey, can we do that? I knew that with you, you're not going to judge me. You're going to say, yes, we can, or no, we cannot. But you're not going to be like, oh my God, here you go again. Because this is what we with ADHD, we're always aware. And this is one of we're always guilty about it. Whether people think about it, think of us that way or not, we're always afraid to be that person.
Mhm.
And so thank you so much for your big heart, for your strong health. We really appreciate it too. But this is something I would just try to give you that validation so you know that this is how genuine you come up, and all the friends and all the support group you have around you. It is so well deserved. And it's all the love you get. It's so well deserved that you are like, you just such a pleasure and you such an honor to have in our life here. Yes, I'm making you cry because that's a payback. She made me cry on her previous podcast.
I want you guys to know that I did not pay her to say
Nope. She's trying to pay me not to do that, but hey, it's too late.
I'm sitting here, and that's a really uncomfortable thing to allow somebody to sit there and say nice things about you,
Right.
because there's always that imposter syndrome that kind of,
Right.
comes in, and it's like, oh, no, poo-poo, but I
Right.
do appreciate it.
But you're not poo-poo. You're not. So that's why I am a big fan of what we're doing, because I truly believe that the value you have for people and the expertise and the experience are so amazing. That's why I'm telling everybody, hey, you need a coach. I have a coach, and look at the difference it made in my life. I truly, truly see the difference, the profound difference since we met. So thank you so much. If you have a doubt in yourself, go watch this video again.
And again and again. It'll be my ego boost.
We need that. We need that. I told you this is the latest thing I do for myself. I make a boo-boo, and before I just lash out at myself, I'm like, stop. And literally, like, this is a big boo-boo, but could be bigger. Thank you for identifying. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing that. It's great. It's such a good approach. We're so good at just destroying ourselves negatively.
Absolutely.
But apparently, we can condition ourselves to come from the positive angle. If you do it, it's like the positivity is almost like a muscle. My sister is a big health nut. She works out. She has a 3 months baby, but she's back in the gym. Blah blah blah. But yet we're talking about positivity, and I'm telling for all those little things, wake up and start with gratitude, because you actually woke up and you breathing. Do you know how many people did not have that opportunity like that the same moment? So we're talking about it, and it's such a concept for her. She's trying to grasp, and I'm like, okay, let's talk about muscles. You are training your muscles. You are nourishing your you do the nourishment training, this. She goes, yes. So that's the same with positivity. You train it and it becomes strong, and then it works by itself. I wake up in the morning now, because I was working at it for years and years. The first thing what comes in my mind, I open my eyes and I'm like, oh my goodness, there's sunshine outside. I'm so happy. Ooh, my bed sheets feel so cozy. Smell of breakfast. Like it's such a little thing, but it's already start my day on such a positive note. So guess what I'm doing the whole day, the rest of the day? I'm just attracting more and more positivity. So the law of attraction, I truly believe in that. And so you are attracting what you deserve. And we're super, super grateful for you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
it. Do we have time for another question?
Okay.
All right. So this one, that comes from Google search. Anytime I search ADHD, that's the first one comes up. And this one is the one, and you know that I struggle with personally lately because I have some signs coming at me. So what do you think about when people truly believe that adult ADHD is not a real um, mental health issue or a disability, or like people literally discredit it. They're like, oh, sure, everybody has a little bit of ADHD. Like, what is it? Adult ADHD.
Honestly, where that comes from, that statement, everybody has a little ADHD, is everybody does have some executive functioning skills issues. Nobody has a perfect executive functioning system. We're all individual, right? So what I would say is, so occasionally everybody loses their keys. Occasionally everybody loses their phone. You know, occasionally people double book themselves or, you know, are late to things. People with ADHD, it is persistent and consistent day in, day out. So I will lose my phone not once a day, but probably at least 6 or 7 times in a day. I'll set it down and forget where I've put it. You know, I've locked my keys in the car the other day. I'm notorious for that kind of thing. And so it's how often and how much it affects your life. And that's part of the definition too, is that it has to have an effect on your life, right? So yes, everybody does have executive function, but let's look at the actual root cause of ADHD, which is actually a brain development issue. And that's physiological. It can be seen with MRIs. It can be seen through scientific means. They can actually visualize what ADHD looks like. It exists. There's no denying that it exists. Whether you want to say everybody has ADHD or, you know, whatever, that's fine. But you need to accept that there is a population of people in our society that meet certain standards based on the DSM, which is where they define, you know, those kinds of things, where they define mental health issues. So the DSM has specific information and definition there, and part of that is that it has to affect your life negatively. So I could have ADHD and fit the diagnostic criteria when I'm a little kid. Then I may develop coping skills, you know, all kinds of things, and I'm living life, doing great, doing exactly what I need to do. I might not hit those qualifications anymore. Does it mean the ADHD went away? No, because ADHD is a brain issue. Your frontal lobe develops slower. There are things in your brain, there are things that don't fire, your neurotransmitters, your dopamine doesn't work correctly. Some people don't have enough dopamine. Some people have lots of dopamine, but it doesn't know where to go, doesn't get where it needs to go. It's like, you know, even our dopamine has ADHD and wanders off all over the place.
Free spirit brain.
So what I would say to those people is do your research. And what I want to say is stop talking out of your ass because you don't know what you're talking about. Research, learn what it's about, and figure out that it is very much so a real thing.
I agree with you. I can just add that sometimes the environment can actually mask your ADHD symptoms. For instance, when I was back in Russia, our schooling structure is different. I'm talking about colleges and universities and stuff. So the reason why I had no issues getting my bachelor degrees, aka it's actually the master's degrees in Russia, because of the structure of the school. You know why? We don't have to pick our own degrees. We don't have all this like whatever flexibility in your schools. I don't understand. Basically, you just need to get to university of your choice. Let's say mine was linguistics, right? So my bachelor degrees is English as a second language and English literature and history, I believe. So all I needed to do is just enter that university, which that program was state-based and it was like very highly competitive. So you have to pass the exam. When you in there, the program is all structured for you for the next 5 years. They have only the subject which are similar to it. They have a progression. So that's all worked out for you. And very strict professors. You do not mess around with them. So see the whole structure. There is a time limit. There is the accountability, and there's a little bit of fear because if you don't learn it, you have to pay a lot of money to pass. Otherwise, you're going to be out of it. So that all I needed to do is just follow the path, and it was stimulating my ADHD in the right way. Maybe not, maybe not very like friendly way, but it was actually enough pressure for me to follow it. And then the moment I got out in the open, you have to make your own decisions. This is when I realized, oh my gosh, my brain is just like spinning because of all those choices, all the decisions which might trigger that analysis paralysis, they were made for me. I just needed to enter that path. That's all I needed to do. And I accomplished it. I was praised for it. I was doing really good. So that might be sometimes, I'm thinking people who are going to military. I mean, everything is chosen for them. So sometimes they don't even know they have ADHD. A friend of mine said her son is doing exceptionally well in military right now. And I see his pictures. He's such a strong boy. She said he is struggling right now to book his own classes because now he's going to school parallel with his stuff. And she's like, I'm looking at his records and he didn't even pick the classes and didn't register because he's like, oh, mom, I don't know how to do it. She's like, you're the guy who going literally jumping off the airplanes right now and going through the rings of fire. But he probably have ADHD. And he doesn't know how to do like booking and registering for the classes. How amazing is that?
Well, and you'd be surprised how often that happens to kids when they leave high school. Like they leave high school, they go to college, and like you said, everything was very scripted for them in high school. They knew what classes they had to take. They were told, which classes
they have parents who are overseeing their progress.
And probably have parents who are still making their doctor's appointments and getting their appointments taken care of. Those things. And then they hit college and they have to do it all by themselves. And that's when that ADHD mask falls off because you can't keep it on because things start to go topsy-turvy for you. And that's why I like working with college kids, because it's at that point in their lives where a lot of them will drop out of college because they can't handle that change.
Right. Well, I think we had really, really good conversation. I would like to maybe kind of finish up our conversation with this question. What would you suggest for ADHD people who are like, imagine that they're in the worst of the worst, like they're in the point of their life that their brain is spinning out of control. They cannot get a grasp of things. Like it's just to the point that they're depressed. They may be following a lot of self-destructing paths, whether it's, like, I don't know, cheap dopamine producing stuff, something maybe not even healthy, something maybe not even legal, like the worst of the worst. What would you tell them to embrace about ADHD, which is kind of inevitable, but yet hopeful? Like it's for me, the ADHD was a negative thing for a long time. And then somehow now it's a positive thing. So now I always look at it from the positive side, and then it helps me overcome some of the negative stuff. What would you say to them? I know it's kind of weird. I don't even know what I'm saying with that, but I think I have a lot of passion behind it.
So a person who's really struggling right out like the gate, one of the things, especially what you're describing, sounds like a lot of overwhelm, just, all kinds of things going on. So every person has different strategies that work for them best. But if I was just giving a generic answer for somebody that, I was talking to at a conference and they asked me the question, I would say one of the first things I'd recommend is doing a brain dump. And in a brain dump, you would just write down all of your thoughts on a piece of paper, anything. It doesn't have to be, the sky's blue, write it down, whatever. Just whatever is coming out of your head for a good period of time, write those things down. And then go back and see if you can find recurring themes. See if you can find patterns within the things that you're saying. You may not realize that your thoughts have repeatedly gone to how much you hate your job, or your thoughts may have gone to how you have somebody who's upset with you or something like that. But you don't even
Or you're not happy with your relationship.
It could be a relationship. It could be a lot of things. But by dumping it all onto paper and looking at it and seeing what is really occupying my time and my thoughts right now, and then analyzing, is this worthy of me giving the energy and time to it, right? So really, ultimately, I think the first step is starting to set priorities and finding out what you can get rid of, because we all have stuff, excuse me, because we all have stuff that we are doing that we could get rid of that would improve our quality of life. So that would be my first suggestion. And that's just like a very, very first step, but that's where I would go.
Right. I noticed that when I was in my deepest out of control before getting diagnosed, that I was prone to be depressed a lot. And so the way how I start pulling out of depression is I notice one thing. The state of depression is temporary.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not saying everybody feels that way. Some people do not feel that it's temporary. Some people have feel depression for days and days and maybe such a long time that it's not temporary for them. But for me, that was the turning point. When I actually realized that my depression is temporary, we're talking about a deep depression for 24 to 48 hours. And then I would always find the ways, like, kind of like come back from it. The moment I noticed that, that was my magic pill. The way when depression will kick, which now I know it was analysis paralysis and all the good stuff. When I keep telling myself it's temporary, I just relax a little bit and let myself feel all the feelings I want, knowing that it's going to be okay.
Well, and that kind of brings me to that next thing. What do I always say, like, before anything else, in everything that you try, give yourself
grace.
Give yourself some grace, man. Be easy on yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. And I think sometimes when we get into that depressive state, all we hear is negative talk in our heads, and we assume it from other people. This is another big thing with ADHD, is we assume what people are thinking and we don't know. And so getting into that depression, in that depressive state, being able to think of, just like what you said, a positive thing about your situation is helpful. But being kind to yourself and not using those words with yourself, that if I say to you, "You're so stupid, why did you do that?" It doesn't change anything when you say, "You're so stupid, why did you do that?" You heard the same words and they felt the same way, right? So now you're just feeding yourself negativity. So what you're talking about is taking that negativity and turning it into positivity. And how do you do that? And one of the first things is recognizing that you're having negative attitudes. And then once you recognize that, then being able to make that switch. I used to be much more cynical than I am now, believe it or not. and you know, it's easy to become cynical and start seeing all of the bads and bad things, rather than all of the good things. And I had to make a conscious effort. It's just like everything else. It's a practice. And like you said, you just have to do it, and you learn how to do it. And so when I would think something negative, I'd immediately follow it up with a "and" statement. So that was a really stupid thing to do. And it's okay. Even with situations with people, in that when something would come about and I would feel negative about it, I would say, "Yes, this felt bad, and this is the good that came from it." So rather than trying to completely eliminate the bad, I would acknowledge the bad. And then I would say, but there's also a good, right?
Right.
And then once I was able to make that shift and go from the negative and the positive, I was more easily able to shift from negative to positive without ever having to really acknowledge the negative as much. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I also imagine, I started thinking of myself of that a person. So it's not just me subjectively how I feel, but sometimes I try to step out of my personality and just see me as a person like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would acknowledge that this person is with me. And that's the only person who knows everything I know and feel from the moment I was born to the moment I will die. So that's the closest person to my identity.
Mm-hmm.
If I am kind to my spouse, my relatives, my kids, why am I punishing this person who is with me and who is the only one who knows everything I go through? The moment I did that for just 1 second, that separation, it helped me actually remind myself, hey, you're not going to be that mean to your kids. Why are you punishing yourself? Why are you using those words? So that helps me a lot. I always tell myself, whoa. I need to be nicer to myself.
Mm-hmm.
I am the only one I got.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to go away. Other people cannot be with you 24/7, but this is who I am.
Right.
So it actually helps. I'm like, wait a minute. Look at the positive. Look what other people see. Like, stop being blindfolded by all that hate and all that scrutiny. Just look at what other people see.
Mm-hmm.
You deserve recognition. You deserve that grace. You are a nice person. Please be kind. Be kind to yourself.
Absolutely.
So, see my personality disorders here. Let's separate. Hey, but whatever helps, right? Whatever helps.
Absolutely.
So, well, thank you so much, Janine. Sorry for putting you through minutes and minutes of scrutiny.
It has been a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed our time together, and it's been a great conversation.
Thank you.
Whenever I talk with you, we can have long conversations that would go on.
Right.
It's so hard to cut them off.
I know.
But thank you for actually even thinking of this idea and putting it out there, because I think it's pretty cool. So I appreciate it. Thank you for being on.
I got the inspiration from Disney because in Disney World, they had, I don't remember what year is that, 1990s. They had a year where Stitch stole the castle. So the whole idea was when they TP the whole castle and put Stitch everywhere. So it was the whole year of Stitch running Disney. I thought that was such a cute idea. So I'm like, let's hijack Janine's podcast for just a second and see how that's going to be working out. So, hey, being ADHD, you always have this non-traditional ideas. Hopefully it's fun. Hopefully it's fun for other people.
Well, thank you for another great conversation, and I hope our butterflies on the wall will remember to subscribe and like and all the good stuff, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye.